We need to start off the show by asking Todd the same question that he just asked Hank 10 seconds before the show started. Hank, you want to ask Todd?
Oh, do you go to the gym every day?
Every day.
Wow, really?
I'm in there every day.
You're
Shocking.
kidding.
Can't stop, won't stop.
Yeah.
I think I'm addicted.
See, I just go through phases. Like during training camp, I do a great job because it's like there's like a routine, and then it just like slowly falls off. But what really happens is like I won't go for like 2 weeks, and I'll be like, oh, that's horrible, and then I'll go like twice a day for a week and try to make up for it, and then I get burned out, and so I don't go for a while again. I'm in a fat phase, is what I call it at the moment.
Phase,
Yeah,
wow.
It's called bulking.
Yeah, there you go.
that's
bulking
intentional.
season.
That's intentional.
And it's almost winter, so you can sell it off as that.
Exactly.
That is true.
Exactly.
That is true.
That just means in the spring, Henry, you're gonna have to get that summer bod going.
Yeah, there was at one point this summer I'd been to the gym like every day for like a month or month and a half at least, and I went golfing for the first time in that time period, and I just hit the ball so far. I was like, oh my God, this is incredible.
How good did you feel?
It was incredible, and it's like the first time I've ever had like a return on my weightlift. I didn't play like professional football where being strong is just like a bonus. I don't like lift things up that are heavy, so it was like the first time I was like, not only do I look better, this is actually helpful, useful.
Is being strong a bonus in football? I feel like it's a mandatory.
Yeah, definitely.
I think it's necessary.
Yeah, it's one of the many reasons that I didn't make it in football. I have a feeling we're going to talk about my football career a little bit today.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah.
Huh.
I mean, if you
in.
bring it up, it's kind of how that happens, you know?
That's it's on my list up here. Yeah, I'm bringing it up.
Interesting. Well, I'm curious how you are going to transition to that, but I know how I'm going to transition to what we're talking about today. We're talking about cutting season. This year was cutting season for Russ, how he dropped 20 pounds or 15 pounds, as Sean told us. But is after this year going to be cutting season from Russ, as in cutting him from the Broncos? Let's talk about Russ's future with the team. And there's so many things out there, so many variables about if he's going to be on the team, if you can cut him, how much it would cost, what the team would look like if you have to cut him, or maybe you can trade him. But let's just take this big step back. Is Russ going to be on the team next year? Or what does he have to do in the final 11 games of the season to either earn a spot on the team for 2024, which would also guarantee him money for 2025, or what does he have to do in the final 11 games for him not to be on the team anymore?
You know, I think money talks, so I'm very interested in seeing how his contract breakdown is over the next 2 years. So I think that'll be the ultimate deciding factor for whether he's here or not. I think he can do a good job of playing on the field, but these last season plus the first 6 games of this season, like we have or at least the team has a big book on what Russ is and what he can do at this point of his career. And it just depends on, I think, more so the money and how it factors into them being able to build over the next couple years with Sean as their head coach. Does the money allow them to do that? They part ways from him now, or would it be better to keep him and kind of bite the bullet and build for the future, which is like maybe 5 to 6 years away?
Todd, you know what's crazy? Speaking about the future, Russell Wilson's 5-year, $250 million extension hasn't even kicked in. It doesn't start until 2024. So if the Broncos were to move on to him after this season, then they would have a lot of financial implications because of that contract, but technically he would have never played on that contract, which is just wild. And I think it boils down to really one thing that can kind of be separated into two, but it's pretty much one. Russ has to go out there and ball these final 11 games and ball under Sean Payton. And one of the things that I've just seen Sean Payton seem skeptical of is really allowing Russ to be Russell Wilson and throw the deep ball. I think last week he had the fourth fewest air yards per pass, which just means he's not throwing the ball deep. You didn't get Russell Wilson to be a check down guy. You got Russell Wilson to be the guy that's throwing the ball deep. Marvin Mims has 1 target in the past 4 games. That's your biggest deep threat. Sean Payton, I just don't think is comfortable letting Russ be Russ. And so I think Sean's ready to move on. And if Russ doesn't come out and play extraordinary, then I think that Sean's going to try to move heaven and earth in order to move on from him. But moving on from him might be moving heaven and earth in terms of this contract. And so the second part to this is, if Russell Wilson plays this well, the Broncos are probably going to win some games and probably win enough games where they've certainly put themselves out of that position to get the top 2 picks, maybe even get the top 5 picks. And so if they're sitting at pick 12, is it really worth trading 2 additional first-round picks to move up into the top 3 to get a top quarterback and then also pay Russell Wilson $80 million to leave? So I really think those two go hand in hand, but I think it's an uphill battle right now for Russ to be on this team in 2024.
Yep, and I do too. And the reason is the numbers. And basically the way it works.
Wouldn't the numbers suggest that he would be on the team?
Oh, just like financial numbers. Just like, you're just in that situation. So the way that it would work is that you would bring him back for 2 years, like you said, because if you bring him back for 1, it's going to cost the same whether he's here for 1 or 2. So you wouldn't save anything to cut him.
Explain why.
5th day of the league year.
Starts in March.
Yep. The 2025 salary becomes fully guaranteed. So that's why if you're going to cut him at any point in the next 2 years, you would do it right there in that 5-day window and not at any point after. Otherwise, you're paying the exact same amount of money regardless. So the way it works out, though, is that if they keep him for those 2 years, it essentially adds $37 million to the bill. So the cost for the Broncos to have Russell Wilson on the roster winds up being $18.5 million per year for 2 years, which isn't a bad deal. Like, and playing up to that contract isn't hard to do. It's just whether they want the full reset or not.
Well, wait, really quick. Let's take a step back.
Yep.
So it's just the way you presented it could make people think that Russ is only on the books for $18.5 million next year and the year after.
That is not the case. You are paying him. Well, we'll only talk in salary cap and not in cash dollars because that's where it gets complicated.
Right.
So
we don't care about the Walton Penner's cash.
Basically, you're paying him $85 million regardless. You've got another $85 million that you got to account for unless there's like a trade or something like that. Essentially, if you keep him,
we'll
cut
talk
him.
about trades in a second.
$85 million. That goes up to 85 plus 37, 122 if you keep him for 2 more years.
Gotcha.
So essentially, that $85 million is a sunk cost, and you can basically throw it out because the question is whether he's worth that $37 million extra to keep him for 2 years. And that's like a tricky spot for that number because like if that was $60 million, you'd be like, $30 million a year, you probably move on.
Right.
If it was $10 million a year, you're like, why not give it a run? Like, we've seen what he can do. The question is whether you want him for another 2 years, $18.5 million, and you get options after that. So if you wanted to, it'd be like another $40 million to keep him after that, then 45, then 50. That seems unlikely because that $50 million year, he's like 40 years old, and we've seen how he plays right now at 34 going on 35. But that's what it comes down to is $18.5 million per year for 2 years if you want to keep him after this year.
So if he's on the roster next year, what's his cap hit?
His cap hit would be $45 million, I believe.
So it takes
I can
a big
double check
because I think this year it's like 25, 24, something like that.
Yep, and that's because you have he only has an $8 million salary this year because he's still getting the signing bonus and there's like other things that go into that. And it actually only goes up to $17 million next year, but there's like a $22 million additional bonus that it gets that's fully guaranteed. That's part of the $85 million he gets no matter what. But that starts to get spread out.
45.
It's actually 35.
35?
Yep,
And then
so
in 2025,
55.
55.
Then
So
58,
if he's
53,
on the
54.
roster next year, barring a restructure, he would be $35 million in cap next year, 55 on the cap the year after. Pretty much guaranteed since you're locking him in for 2 years.
Yeah, and again, the best way to look at all that is just in total numbers because it's going to get, depending on how long he's on the team, like the money moves to different places. But since you can roll over cap, for the most part, all that really matters is the total number. Now, the one caveat is that, like, sure, $85 million, you can pay it all at once. You can pay it over 3 years. You can move money around to make it work. That's just such a big number that would actually be kind of tough to move enough. But essentially, the total number is all that works because the salary cap is set up in a way that essentially it's just your balance against the cap, not in any given year, but in all years previous to that since the salary cap was implemented.
Right.
Yeah, which is a little complicated, but.
So in terms of just the way to think about it for people is if the Broncos were to move on from Russell Wilson after this year and cut him, it would be $80 million in dead cap. They could take that all next year. Highly unlikely. Or, at least initially, they get to designate as a post-June 1 cut and then take half of it next year, half of it in 2025.
Essentially. So we're mostly through all the boring, complicated stuff. So you have to bear with us just a little bit longer.
No, I think people have really wanted these numbers for a long time.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I think I'm actually interested because as players, like, this is not something we talk about.
Exactly.
Like, you talk about your contract and whether you're getting paid.
Yep.
You really don't care if it's a hit on the salary cap because I'm not worried about everybody else's money. I'm just worried about my money.
It's so true. And fans, we all view it through salary cap lens. I don't care what salary you're getting. If you got your bonus last year and if it gets this year. No, I just care about the salary cap.
Absolutely. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
That's so funny.
Well, and that's why the guaranteed money is always such like a sticky issue because it's easy to look at Mike McGlinchey's contract and say, okay, 5 years, 87.5. But really, the Broncos could save $17 million in that last year, and instead they aren't looking at it as, okay, we're giving 5 years, $87 million. They're saying we can give it 5 years, $87 million, or 4 years, $70 million, or 3 years less, and so you have like these staggered amounts.
And that's why Randy
Gets even
Gregory, 5 years, $70 million contract. Oh my gosh, what a bust.
Exactly.
Now, Randy Gregory on the Broncos was a bust, but it wasn't 5 years, $70 million. It
Yeah.
was 2 years, $28 million because of that
And
guarantee.
then 3 more $14 million team options, which is like, if anything, Randy would have wanted 2 years, 28 instead of 5 years, 70, because if he plays well,
He can renegotiate.
he can go negotiate with anybody instead of the Broncos saying, nope, we've got you for $14 million.
That's why the good agents, they try to front load their contracts because they know you'll
Yeah.
never see the back end of that
Exactly.
money.
Yeah.
So a good agent probably would have been like 5 years, $70 million, but
Yep.
the first 3 you may get $50 million of that. You know what I'm
Exactly.
saying?
Yeah.
That's how the good agents do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
That's exactly it. But yeah, so the post-June 1 cut is like, there are very few complicated things left, but that's one of them. So the way it works is whenever you cut somebody on the salary cap, you don't just take all the money that you owe accounting-wise right away, unless it's after June 1st. So if you cut somebody after June 1st, you pay to the salary cap whatever you have to pay them in that year. So like if they had guaranteed salary, you pay that. Whatever portion of the signing bonuses count for you, they pay that. But then it's the next year where everything else hits. So that's why it works like this. But essentially what it means is instead of $85 million up front, it's 35 1 year this year and then $50 million the next year. But the caveat is with the post-June 1 cut, you are making that cut at whatever time you want, but designating it, you can do this twice. You can say, we don't want this to hit our books until June 1st. He's free to go negotiate. He's not on the roster, but this doesn't hit our books until then. The caveat, though, is that you still need to keep that whole $85 million in cap space open until June 1st. So when you're going through the offseason, it isn't $35 million that hits. You have to keep $85 million accounted for Russell Wilson until June 1st, and then it splits. And so that limits the benefits a little bit because you need to field a roster. Because just for perspective, the salary cap next year is supposed to be $240.5. So that's about a third of the cap that you're saying we are dedicating to Russell Wilson moving on. And then June 1st, you get another $50 million to use. But what's that really worth? Because the free agents are gone, and you're just kind of stuck.
Well, right now, how much cap space do the Broncos have for next year?
Thanks to the Randy Gregory trade, I think they're on pace to have negative 20 as of now.
And that's with Russ being on the roster?
Yeah. So with the post-June 1 cut, it's 35.4 if he's gone, 35.4 if he's there.
So what I'm hearing is there's no situation where Russell Wilson will pull a Frank Clark and say, hey, I'll give you money back just to let me go. He's going to sit back, let these guys try to figure this out, and he's just going to be counting the money he does have and waiting for the next check to come in.
Exactly. Like there's, especially at that point in your career, like if you're Frank, you're thinking like, okay, I'm 30. Edge rushers can play to like 35. Like it's rare. You don't get as much at the back end, but it's like, put me on a good team. Let somebody else get the double teams. Let me go for the sack record. Let me go win some games. I can stick around in the league for a few years. I'm just going to waste away if I'm in Denver, and I'll give up $1 million to go find somewhere I can play and put up some numbers and extend my career. For Russ, I mean, this is a massive contract. it's probably his last contract. So you
That's
just
big one.
take all the money you can get.
Yeah.
That's like not even generational money. That's like 10 generational money. Like
seriously,
the Wilson family will be a family in America in like 5 years, you know?
forever. 500 years, you mean? Not
I
5
mean,
years.
kids are going to college that long for sure. Like that's a guarantee.
So let's talk about if he's worth that kind of 2-year, $37.5 million deal, or if another team would take him after I tell you about our friends over at Red Hawk Roofing. It's Denver's best roofers. They've joined the DNVR team. They use quality materials. They have decades of experience. They're available 24/7 and have a quick response time, and they're Colorado's best estimators and contractors. And on top of all of that, they're big-time DNVR supporters and have been part of our family for a long time. So you can trust them. You can talk Denver sports with them if you want. So if you're looking for a new roof over your home or business, be sure to check out Red Hawk Roofing at redhawkroofing.com and tell them DNVR sent you.
And also go check out our friends over at my favorite place in the entire world. And that is Hero Bread.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where can you check out Hero Bread?
So Hero Bread is just literally awesome. And right now, fans can purchase online with the code DNVR for 10% off their first order. So keep that in mind as we go. The bread is tasty. It has great texture. It's soft and fluffy, not flushy. That's not good. And it's actually
eventually be flushy.
It's a great nutritional value as well. It's high in fiber, ultra low net carbs. There's some that's like 0 sugar. And if you go to hero.co, then you can check it all out. So they've got like sliced bread, they've got buns, they've got tortillas. You can also go over to Amazon. It has fewer calories than the leading national brand. It also has 5 to 10 grams of protein per serving. Todd, that's a lot, right?
That's a good amount.
Yeah. I trust
your
your
gym.
judgment. Exactly. Make this your new after gym bread. And I don't know. Look at Todd. If you want to be like Todd, Hero Bread's the way to do it. And like I said, right now, Hero Bread is offering the DNVR fam 10% off their first order. Just go to hero.co, use the code DNVR. You'll save on Hero Bread today. That's HERO.co.
Okay, so there's one other caveat to talk about. Well, no. Yeah, there's one other caveat to talk about in terms of keeping Russ. If the Broncos trade him, Henry, explain to us what happens to his contract.
So, in a simple trade, like you just say, here's the contract, we're trading it. The Broncos no longer have $85 million in dead cap. That gets cut down to $46 million, which is a big number. And that's like I said, no, it's actually 35 if you keep him. So it's another $10 million next year, then nothing after that, which is obviously incredible. The new team, though, takes on essentially a 2-year, $76 million fully guaranteed contract. So that's $38 million a year. And just for perspective, Matt Stafford, Dak Prescott, Daniel Jones, they're at $40 million a year. Derek Carr, Aaron Rodgers, 37.5. Kirk Cousins, 35. Jared Goff, 33.5. Tannehill, 29.5. Geno's 25. Jimmy Garoppolo's 24.25. So those numbers probably don't quite add up the way Russ is playing. You probably don't want him on a 2-year, $38 million contract. That's not something, or 2 per year, that you want to trade for. But what they could do is do what they did with the Randy Gregory trade. And that's where things get weird. So you're going to pay this $85 million if you cut him. So what happens if you tell the new team, we'll just pay the $85 million we were going to pay, and in exchange for that, you don't have to pay him that much, but we want a draft pick in return. That's the same thing to do with Randy Gregory. We say, we're paying this much money, we might as well get something in return for it. And if that's the case, the new team takes on that 2-year, $37 million contract that we talked about for the Broncos.
Right.
I guess it's actually a little bit less because it's 37, not 38.5. But it's about the same. So $18.5 million. Oh no, that is the exact same. So there's kind of the same question. It's not just could the Broncos want to keep him at $18.5 million. It's would a team want to give something up to get him at that rate? And there's really 2 questions. The first one is, do they think he would cost more in the open market? If the Broncos just cut him and they're free to negotiate, would Russ demand more than $20 million? Would they have to pay more, or could they get him at a cheaper amount? And then secondly, is there competition? If there's multiple teams who want him at that rate, then you'd be incentivized, obviously, to trade for him and not have to risk him negotiating and deal with another team instead.
So I put together a list of teams that could potentially. I tried to get all
It's
of
tough.
the teams that would be potentially interested. Again, if there was a sliver of hope that they'd be interested, I put them on this list. Let's run through this and tell me if you guys think this team would be willing to take Russ on. And no team is going to take Russ on for that 2 years, $37 million per year. I don't think. Do you guys disagree with me?
There's no
Okay.
way.
So then what we're talking about is, would a team be willing to take on 2 years, $37.5 million total? So about 18 a year?
Yep. And the one more thing is that you could also choose any number in between. So those are the two extremes. You give him that 76 total over 2 years, or the new team has to give him 37 total. You could also say 40, 45. So if there's teams that say he's going to be $25 million on the open market, like Jimmy Garoppolo, say like, hey, we'll take him for 23.
And I don't think that's going to happen.
That's fair.
I'm not sold that a team would take him for 2 years, $37.5
That's fair.
million over 2 years total. So let's go through this and let me know if any team would be interested. The Packers.
Next year, I say no.
Okay.
I'd say
no.
probably not also.
Okay.
I think to me, they're in that sweet spot where they're not going to have a high enough draft pick probably to get an exciting rookie.
Sure.
And they're also like probably looking for a quarterback, but I still think that's probably not
The
a move.
Falcons.
Yes.
There's a chance. There's definitely a chance.
They might be number one on this list. So let's go back and then we'll save the teams that we said yes to. The Patriots.
Yes. They
Ooh.
are in dire need for a quarterback.
They
If
certainly
they
are.
keep
I don't know.
Belichick another year, they're another team though, sitting there at 1-5. If they wind up
Might be
with
bad
the
enough.
number 3 pick,
Yeah.
why not just go get Michael Penix or something?
Yeah. I think if the Patriots somehow win a couple of games and move themselves out of that, then they would be interested. Right now, as it stands, I think they're going rookie. But right now, when they're not guaranteed a rookie, I think it's fair to keep them in there. This,
Why is Michael Penix number 3 on everybody's board?
he is
deep ball.
jumping up.
Yeah.
Huh?
I mean, numbers wise, he's incredible. So there's kind of
Absolutely.
starting
If you
point.
watch his games, like the accuracy is what I love.
Yeah.
Who cares if you can throw the ball 90 yards down the field? Doesn't
Yeah.
matter.
Yep.
I care about accuracy.
You
like,
mean, why isn't he higher?
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I agree. He's easy number 3 to me behind May and Caleb Williams. And we're also only halfway through the season. Like
But what Todd's saying is, why isn't he number 2? Number
Yeah.
1?
Yeah.
I think that he's really good at like the one-on-one balls. Like watching him reminds me a lot of like Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, where it's just like back shoulder, like dig out, like he'll just toy with you, like put the ball where it's supposed to be.
So
I
wait,
still
wait,
think
wait. If that's your comparison, who's
no,
been better than
I
Aaron
love it.
Rodgers? Like,
I mean,
Aaron Rodgers
it's
is probably one of the
probably-
greatest quarterbacks to ever play the game. Like,
there's definitely that. But then there's also like, I mean, Caleb Williams, the comp is somewhere between like Patrick Mahomes and Russell Wilson. You've also got like Drake May, who's somewhere between like Josh Allen and Justin Herbert. Like, and these are all kind of best case scenarios. With Penix, the arm strength isn't as good as like May to me. Like he has a bigger arm. Caleb Williams probably also has a bigger arm. And I haven't watched enough to say it's for sure, but from what I've seen, I like what the other two can do quickly better than Penix. And if I watch him more, I might change my mind. Like again, I watched the Oregon game, but those like quick reads 1 to 2 to 3, I'm not sure if he has that as much as he says like I've got dominant number 1 and I can get him the ball every time.
I bet if there was a bet, if DraftKings took bets on who would be the best quarterback at the draft, I would easily bet
I like it.
$100,000.
I like it.
I love that. I love that.
You
And-
can do first overall pick.
No, I don't think he's gonna be
Okay,
the first
that's
overall pick.
fair.
I think he's gonna be the best quarterback in the draft, though. Once it's all said and done.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
the
He's
really
talented,
good news
man.
is he is establishing himself as a legit top 5 pick. So
Yep.
we've talked about 1 and 2. Broncos right now have the 3rd overall pick. Now it looks like that's not an awful place to be. And so
Exactly.
you hope that Penix just continues to establish himself. And Todd, I agree with him. We're going to get deeper into this, especially if we're talking quarterbacks in the draft. I think arm strength is a little overrated when
I
it comes
think
to
so, too,
quarterbacks.
man.
Yeah.
I mean,
It
no
just-
quarterback like can't throw the ball 15 yards.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
If you're playing in college, you can do that.
It's just so
Exactly.
nice when you see like Josh Allen and there's just like even on like a slant or something, just like bang right
It
in his
looks
chest. Like
great.
there's no time to like make a play on it. Like
It looks great, but you also got to account for all the interceptions that Josh Allen has had.
yeah, and you also
Like,
yeah,
you got to think about the accuracy when throwing the football. Like, I don't have to rifle it in. If he's beating him on a slant, he's beating him on a slant. I can put the ball right where it needs to be. And
Yep.
like you said, those one-on-one, the way he can place a ball in one-on-one coverage, like That's unguardable.
It's special.
Yeah.
I can have great coverage on you, but your quarterback
Yeah.
can put it to where I can't get it. Like, I don't understand why accuracy isn't the number one,
Totally agree.
thing that teams look at.
And that's why, I mean, one extreme is the Josh Allen saying what an elite arm strength can look like. Another extreme is Peyton Manning when he played with the Broncos.
Yep.
He did not have arm strength on deep balls, on short balls. I mean, there were some wobblers there.
Yep.
But for the most part, they always got there. Obviously, an extreme. Peyton's got so many other things going for him that no other quarterback has had, but just an extreme there. Okay, wait. Let's continue this because we've got a great guest coming on in just
we'll
a
get
second.
to talk about this plenty in the
Yeah.
offseason.
Oh, yes.
We'll
Which
give months.
Maybe just next week.
Yeah.
The Steelers. They've got Kenny Pickett right now.
Ooh. I don't know. They like to stay with guys for a while. They like to give them chances.
a great
I
point.
do think more than the Patriots, like they've got a nice roster and could say like with a solid quarterback who can just run the offense, we might be a playoff team. But I agree. Like it's probably not their move.
I agree. Titans. Tannehill.
Yeah.
Think so?
I think that's a big one.
Yeah.
Okay. Commanders. Sam Howell.
Yes.
Think so? I
mean, all these
I
are
think
like
they'd roll with Sam Howell before moving to Russ.
depends on how the season
It's an
plays out.
option.
It's
yeah.
also new ownership. They might want to bring in a big name.
That's what we did.
It doesn't work. We know. But you can pawn it off to the next
Yeah.
sucker.
With the quarterback and the coach.
Exactly.
The Vikings
They'd rather keep Kirk.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
they'd rather
Yeah.
keep Kirk.
and the Bucks, Tampa Bay.
Would you rather
yeah,
just
well,
have
I don't know what
Baker?
their draft pick would be. I'm not Baker. No,
No, I mean, but Russ
Baker's
though is
not
the other
it.
option.
I think Russ is better than
Okay,
Baker.
yeah.
Can I
that's
throw
fair.
one out there real quick?
Yeah.
What about the Colts now that Anthony Richardson is injured?
He'll be
no,
back
because this
next
will be
year.
after this year.
You sure?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your mic on? You here?
Yep.
Do you see there's
I'm
a
s-
burner account out there now?
I know there is.
Glad
It's
you
got-
here's,
I know. It's
here's
funny.
muted
That is
mic.
important.
Okay, so we kind of narrowed it down to three teams: Titans, Patriots, Falcons. Do you think that any team would be willing to take on that 2-year, $37.5 million over 2-year deal?
Over 2 years, so we're talking about like 18
Yep.
some
Yeah.
change.
Yep.
I say yes, just because as you went to the list of quarterbacks and what their salaries were, 18 and a half puts them at kind of the bottom of the pile. And I think if you're going to, he wouldn't play terrible enough to be not make 18 million work. Just because quarterbacks get paid so much.
Yep.
Now, if it was a linebacker, 18 million, absolutely not.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Any other position, I think no. But because quarterbacks are paid so much, I think that 18 is pretty cheap for a quarterback.
It is.
Yep.
It's absolutely extremely cheap. And I think it boils down to the last 11 games of the season. Does Russ play like he has in the first 6 collectively? Obviously not just against the Chiefs, but collectively when he's been much better than last year. If he does, I think a team like the Falcons who think, man, if we only get better quarterback play, we'll be willing to take a gamble on Russ and we can't get up to the top 3 quarterbacks. I think they would. If Russ plays similar to how he did against the Chiefs or anywhere like he did last year, I think any team saying, I want nothing. I want to stay so far away from this. I'm not moving. I'm not trading for him.
And I think that Russ in particular makes sense for these teams because I think when Russ has been at his best this season, it's been I get on the script first of all, and so many of those scripted plays are like pistol, like weak eye, whatever, where you're just faking a handoff to the running back and then like the fullback's leaking out behind, or like the tight end has like a little screen. Like there's so many of those underneath passes that I think when Sean Payton has told Russ like this is just the play, the ball goes here, I think that's what's gone well, and I think that's a lot of what the scripted plays are. And when you look at like the Falcons, for example, that's exactly what they want in their quarterback. Like it's just like get the ball to the playmaker here. Like all they want is all the close stuff inside, and then the fact that he could hit a deep ball to Drake London. Same with the Patriots. Like it reminds me of the Patriots with the like Cam Newton. And maybe Bill Belichick went through that and said, like, please never do
Yes.
this again.
Yes.
At the same time, though, like, he thought there was potential there and, like, making some easy reads, not asking him to be Tom Brady. And the fact that Mac Jones is supposed to be, like, good at that sort of stuff and things aren't going all that well, maybe he does say, like, I'm just trying to find a way to build a competent football team. And Russ has shown this year that he can be competent and just kind of run the offense.
So as of now, you think a trade would make sense for one of those teams?
Oh, I'll say yes,
Okay.
but it's tough,
Yeah.
and that's honestly banking on no more performances like the Chiefs. Like he needs to be good, and good the rest of the season, not just like, he's fine.
And this is clearly something that involves a much deeper conversation. And I love that we got all the numbers out there so we can understand that and then continue to build this conversation probably weekly as we go on. But speaking of, we've got an awesome guest. Our guy, Baldy, join us in just a second after I tell you about our friends over at Breckenridge Brewery. Grab yourself some Broncos Country Pale Ale with the cold weather coming in. Get yourself some Vanilla Porter Jr., of course, with the Nugget season starting as well. Some Avalanche Amber Ale. You see a trend here? They pretty much got a beer for all teams in the state. That's what makes them the official beer of DNVR. So if you want to grab a Breck beer, go to breckbrew.com and find their beer locator.
And shout out to our friends over at Splash Sports, where DNVR has a weekly Pick X contest for everyone to participate for real money. This is how you enter. You head to splashsports.com/DNVR and sign up. You deposit cash to get started and enter DNVR's weekly NFL Pick X contest for just $20. They have a lot of good prizes and a lot of money really to be won. The more people who enter, the larger the prize. They'll be running contests all year. So once again, go check out our friends over at Splash Sports at splashsports.com/DNVR.
All right, we've got our guy, Baldy, joining us right now. What is going on, Brian? How's it going?
Things are going good. I mean, here we are getting ready for week 7. So I've digested all the 16 games this week, kind of got an idea of what's happening, and ready to roll with you guys here.
Yeah, I love it. And before we get into the Broncos-Chiefs game almost a week ago and preview this Packers game coming up, we asked you about the adventures that you've been going on, and you actually posted a video to Twitter. So I want to pull it up so everyone can follow through with your adventures here. Yeah, here, let's see what Baldy was doing. Tell us about this, Brian.
I mean, I'm just I have a house in Fort Lauderdale, so I'm a free diver. So, I'm just diving down at the pier here. Saw a little nurse shark just kind of putzing around, so I decided to follow it for a little while, see if it could lead me to some other nurses, and couldn't stay down longer than a minute and a half. So I kind of popped up, gave my thoughts about it right there. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm doing when I get some free time.
Wow.
You're definitely a big guy. Do you get any sharks that feel like you might be part of the family? They come up kind of close and think that you're one of them?
I know the ones. There's some like the bull sharks make me nervous. I get out of the water when I see them. But nervous lemon sharks, reef sharks, like I don't know. They don't seem to have much interest in what I'm doing.
Wow.
Man, that's awesome. We're gonna have to just do a weekly catch up with you on these. Anything planned this weekend?
Well, not really. No, I mean I've got to get to Indianapolis for the Colts-Cleveland game, so I'm getting ready to go watch. Maybe the best defensive football here this weekend. See if they can put another one on.
Man,
San Francisco last week.
It's really true. We got to do like a look around the NFL with you at some point because that Browns defense was great. But I think the Broncos defense heard you last week because we asked you to describe what type of fish the Broncos would be. And you said like a teeth without any, or a shark without any teeth because they just have no defense. And finally, the Broncos defense showed up last week. What was the biggest change to allow the Broncos to have success, not just in the NFL, but specifically against the Chiefs? What'd you see from their defense?
Well, they kept him to the one touchdown, but they didn't give up the big plays. There wasn't big chunk plays. I mean, the one to Travis Kelce, but really they didn't give up a lot of big plays. They kept everything underneath. They tackled the catch. They got some pressure on Patrick to flush him, but I thought they played much tighter in coverage than what we have seen, and I thought that was a big part of it. And then look, Isaiah Pacheco's a quality back, but he never shook loose. And so I just thought, like, the linebackers, really pressed the line of scrimmage. There's an old saying that if you step up, you can clean it up. If you back up, you give it up. And I just felt like they stepped up and cleaned up a lot of the run game last week.
They really played good in the red zone. They were able to step up and make some good stops. I talked again on this show about how, as a defense, we really feel like we have the ability to play, tight in the red zone because there's limited space. You being an offensive lineman, how does the offense feel when they get to the red zone? Is that an opportunity where they feel like they would much rather score from like the 40-yard line as opposed to being, in a tight space, trying to score, 5-10 yards out?
Well, the closer you get, I mean, as an offensive lineman, you want to be able to run the ball. If you can run the ball in the red zone, you're going to have greater chances of success. But, we know that, defense can stop the run if they want to. If they, if that's what their goal is, they can stop that. I feel like when you get down there, defenses, they're either playing you man or they're playing you in quarters. It's one or the other. And so what's your man beater? What are you doing against quarters? And so to me, like, you have to have a plan, especially with Mahomes, his ability to extend plays. But you got to take Kelsey away down there. You got to, I mean, you got to have eyeballs on him. You got to have guys that are going to attack him. And it's not you can't just leave him open because Mahomes will get him the ball. And so I just felt like, they play much tighter in that field. It's a compressed area like you're talking about. But I think you got to mix it up a little bit about what you're doing too, because if Chiefs know you're man coverage like they did against the Eagles in the Super Bowl, they're going to throw those man beaters at you and they're going to get easy completions.
Do you think that the Broncos defense has kind of turned a corner? Like, do you look at that and say, okay, they've kind of figured something out. They can go forward. They can be a solid defense. Or do you come away from that saying, well, at least it's possible, but odds are they're going to be back to themselves next week?
Well, I think, they're getting guys back out there right now. Josie's out there. Justin Simmons is back. I mean, Justin Simmons is a Pro Bowl safety for a reason. I mean, he's an elite player, and he knows formations. He knows route combinations, and he missed a couple weeks. And I thought they really missed him back there. I felt like the back end is playing much, much better right now. And really, they've got some elite players. Like I heard somebody saying something like maybe Sean Payton can, dangle Patrick out there, Surtain, for trade bait right now. I'm like, are you kidding me? Are you going to give up on Patrick Surtain? Like, that's exactly what you're looking for, that guy. So, I just feel like they're playing much better in the back end. And to be honest with you, like if the back end breaks down in coverage or they don't tackle well, you give up big plays and teams score touchdowns. If the back end is in tight coverage, they're in communication, and they tackle well, you're going to limit the number of explosive plays.
Speaking of trade bait, let's hop to the other side of the ball with Jerry, Jeudy, Courtland Sutton, these Broncos receivers. During the Chiefs game, you tweeted, Chiefs cornerbacks own these Broncos wide receivers, lock them up all night. I don't think anyone would disagree with that at all. Is that more of the Chiefs cornerbacks being that good, or the Broncos wide receivers just really not being that good? And then what's their value, if any, on the trade market?
I don't know what the value is. Obviously, you guys, heard what Steve Smith Sr. had to say, about Jerry Jeudy. And, I've known Steve a long time. I knew when he was a dog in his league in Carolina. I've known him a long time. He's straight out of Compton. Like, he doesn't mix any words. But if he turns on you, he ain't going to, he's not going to sugarcoat anything. But that's that beef. The Chiefs corners, they challenge everybody out there. Like, I think, like, Cleveland shut down the 49ers, but the Chiefs defense, they've given up 8 touchdowns in 6 games. Like, I'll take the Chiefs defense over just about anybody in this business right now because they got all the pieces. Because they can play any style. If you want to blitz and just get blitz happy, they can do it. If you want to lock up receivers, they're going to lock you up. McDuffie and L'Jarius Sneed and Watson, they're going to lock you up. Now, elite receivers, great quarterbacks, they can still beat you. You can still beat great coverage with a great throw and a great catch. I didn't see that from Denver the other night. Those guys are dog. They punk you at the line of scrimmage. They tackle. Like, they're a great group. And they're young, and so they practice, every day against Mahomes, and they're used to seeing some, really good players on that side. And then they can get after you with their blitzes in their front. Nobody can block Chris Jones. So that the ball's got to come out pretty fast, the way they blitz or the way that they pressure. So these corners are like, all right, you give me a 3-second clock in my head. I'm going to get right in their grill, and I'm going to stay right there.
Yeah, they're definitely dogs, and thank God the Broncos don't have to play them every week. This week we have the Packers, and the Broncos aren't favored, but I do feel like this is a game that the Broncos could win. I want to talk about, or have you talk about how this Broncos offense matches up against this Green Bay defense and how the Broncos could be able to exploit, this team as a whole.
Well, I think Green Bay's defense, they have a lot of number 1 draft picks on it. I think they have 7 or 8 guys that were number 1 draft picks. You could just go through them all. Rashawn and, Jair, like I think there's 7 or 8 of them, but they don't play like that. And so they seem to break down sometimes in the back end about how they do things, whether it's Rasul Douglas or whatever. So I think there's openings in the back end. They're a zone team. They're not a press man coverage team. You got to block him up front. Rashawn Gary's a really good player. He's a situational pass rusher right now. So when he comes in the game, he comes in fresh. Number 52, you got to count for him. He's a good player. They play a lot of different fronts. You're going to get a bear front. You're going to get a dime front. You're going to get a lot of different fronts. You got to recognize what they're in. And so personnel grouping is important. Sean knows all about that. He'll see it. But I don't feel like they're a great defense. I don't feel like they play up to their talent level. They got big guys inside, Slayton's inside, and Clark and some of these guys. But, like, I see teams gash them. I saw the Eagles run for 350 yards against them last year. Like, I think first thing you got to do is test them in the run game to see if their run fits are good or if they're holding their ground and holding their point inside. Like, I would test them in the run game first.
And then other side of the ball, and that Packers offense, obviously Jordan Love has had his ups and downs, but what do you worry about the most when it comes to the Packers offense, and how do you kind of shut it down?
Well, Jordan Love's got mobility to him, but he's got a slingshot of an arm. You can see some of the things that he learned from, Aaron Rodgers there. Like, he throws the ball really good. He extends plays well. They're beat up front on the offensive line. It's not a secret. Like, you got to win the line of scrimmage. Like, under duress, he threw 3 interceptions in the last game. It's something he had never done before. He had actually played really, really well and done a good job of taking care of the football. And under pressure in the last game, like, he put it up there. Now, they're a young receiving group. Watson, Romeo Dobbs, 2 rookie tight ends. Like, they're very, very young. But, the guy that you have to defend, and he didn't play in the last game, is Aaron Jones. He's just an elite player. He's special. Like, he doesn't miss a hole. His vision's uncanny. And he's got tremendous contact balance, and he loves the game. Like, when they're rolling, like that, AJ and Aaron Jones, like, that's a good 1-2 combination. They throw the ball to both of them, and they run it really well with them. And that's really what Green Bay wants to do. That's kind of how they want to set the table.
Taking a step back here and looking at the bigger picture, you watch more film of the NFL than anyone. You've seen all the Broncos games. Comparing the Broncos and their entire team to other teams in the NFL, do you think the Broncos, by the trade deadline, need to blow things up and need to trade a lot of their players? Or do you think they have enough of a core there to build for the future with this team? And I'm not saying trade everyone like the Pat Surtains and everything, but do you think they need to really kind of take a step back and sell some parts?
Well, maybe where they're at with the roster is, who are you going to sell? I mean, you're going to sell Jerry Jeudy? Okay. All right, you're going to play Brandon Johnson? All right. I mean, that's not going to help Russell Wilson out at all. But I don't know what the market is for Jerry Jeudy. There's an injury history there. There's drops on tape. There's things that say, well, he's not the missing piece, like the way, say, Van Jefferson was let go. But he was let go because Puka Nacua is just that good.
Yeah.
And now you got him and Atwell, and you got Cooper Kupp. Like, they got their 3. They had an expendable player. So I don't know. Maybe that's what you say. Okay, there's not an offensive lineman. They barely have 5.
Yeah.
Right now that can line up and play. So, like, you're not going to trade Javonte. He's coming off a major surgery. Yeah. Like, I don't know who they have that some other team would really covet right now, or somebody that's going to command a big salary, and you're going to, like, we'll just cut it now. We'll get whatever we can asset-wise, and we can, save the money and spend it in free agency next year. Like, if you look at the roster, I don't know who you're going to go unload at this point.
Yeah, it's a good point, and it's a sad point, but it's the truth. And Baldy, you always bring the truth. We love the insight every single week. Good luck if you swim with any sharks this weekend, and we look forward to catching up with you in a week.
Oh, there'll be more adventures, guys. There's no doubt about it. But I just want to go see, Flash Garrett in Cleveland and see if, see what that's going to look like in Indianapolis this week.
Oh, I love it. Thanks so much, Brian. Have a great trip.
Yep. Take care.
Man, awesome insight as always, and I love it. Just people in the comments are like, what do you do on your free time? I go swim with sharks.
Nurse sharks, like the Broncos.
Nurse sharks, like the Broncos. Yeah. Damn. Is that what the commenters are saying?
No, but just to be clear, I mean, we know here on this podcast, the Broncos are a nurse shark just like that shark, so got a live look in.
Sad.
Man, we should have had Baldy call the offense like a nurse shark, and maybe they come out this week and perform like the defense did last week.
Yeah.
Too late now.
We should ask them what marine animal the Packers are.
Oh.
Because I'm not sure, like, if the Broncos are a nurse shark,
Man, maybe something similar to the Broncos. I have no idea. What's the scariest looking animal that is just harmless?
Oh, he was talking about those like big stingrays.
Yeah.
They don't sting, so maybe they're not. Manta rays.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because he said, like, it appears on the surface the Packers are a good defense with 7 or 8 first-round picks, but they're just not good.
So who wins in a fight? Nurse Shark or a manta ray?
I have no idea.
These are the questions we had to ask Brian.
Yeah, we'll find
Damn
out. I need you to bring that heat before the interview next time.
I know,
Henry.
it's so true. It's so true.
Yeah, you can't
We just got into all the
brainstorm
football
after.
talking.
It's true, and we get lost
Yep.
in the sauce with Baldy, and always we love having him on Wednesdays.
Lost in the sauce.
Is that a different phrase?
No, you're right. We're all lost in the sauce.
And let's get lost in the sauce with our friends over at DraftKings Sportsbook. If you want $200 in bonus bets instantly, use the code DNVR and place a $5 bet over at DraftKings. I had a friend sign up for DraftKings this weekend. He used the code DNVR, and he looks at his account and says, I have $200 free in my bonus bets in my account. And I said, yeah, it's because you use the code DNVR. And so if you want to do that, it shows up instantly. You can use it right away.
So fun.
And you can use Thursday Night Football. Is there some action going on yet?
There is. So I'm in the process of moving and also like breaking a lease to move and all that sort of stuff. So I decided I probably shouldn't bet that much money, even though I think I'm at 4 straight profitable months. So really I'm losing money. But what I decided was, yes,
Touch wood.
I decided I can't lose money if I just put $10 in and then turn that $10 into a whole lot of money. So right now I've turned it in 2 days from $10 into $10.52. Eventually, this is going to be tens of thousands of dollars.
What did you bet to turn $10 into $10.52?
My big winner was like $1.20 on the Avs to win when they were down last night. Paid out $2.99. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna stay sharp.
$2.99?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm just gonna build and build. It's more of like a fun experiment than anything.
What is it? You can't go broke if you're taking a profit?
Exactly. Well, I guess I could lose my $10, but
Not if you're taking profits.
That's true.
Yep.
That is true. So I'm gonna turn that into a whole bunch of monny. I'm actually really excited because I'm gonna see how much
you
it
got to
is.
keep us updated.
Yeah. Point is, there is action because I took advantage of one of those insured bets. So like the bet doesn't hit you, get your money back. So I had like a 70-cent free bet. It's been a lot of fun actually. It sounds really dumb. It's been a lot of fun. And I made like a 20-leg parlay. So that's my big one for the weekend. So yeah, I got Sam Houston tomorrow night is the first leg.
All right. I thought the action was Wednesday nights.
I think they do
Not yet?
Tuesday. It might also not be yet.
Okay.
Because by the end of the year, they have these nights, but they have to like slowly rotate from the Saturdays.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. You can get in
Nothing
on
tonight.
all of that action over at DraftKings Sportsbook. Like Todd said, Broncos are dogs this week. If you want to get in on that, use the code DNVR to get $200 in bonus bets. And if you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NEW YORK or text HOPE-NY. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, licensee partner Golden Nugget, Lake Charles, Louisiana. 21 plus age varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. See sportsbook.draftkings.com/sportsbook. Terms for eligibility, terms, and responsible gaming resources. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. Eligibility and deposit restrictions apply. All right. Shall we jump? Yes.
There's one more option with Russ to hit really quickly.
Oh, yes.
They could Brock Osweiler him.
Oh, man.
So you remember Brock went to the Texans, played a year, got a lot of money, and they're like, we don't want to do this, so we're going to trade you and a second-round pick to the Browns, and they're going to eat most of this money. And it's expensive, but I just ran through really quickly. So the Browns ate about $15.5 million in exchange for that second-round pick.
What a great deal for the Browns.
Exactly. Like, if you have the money to do it. But because the salary cap has gone up, it was like 168 million back then, 2017. It's supposed to be like 240, so there's like inflation, so that's not the equivalence right now.
Sure.
Right now, if the Broncos were to have have the full like trade value, so cut their own cap hit from 80 million down to 45 million,
Okay.
that would cost about halfway between the 5th and 6th overall pick. Just for perspective, that's unrealistic probably because the Broncos need that pick to get a good player. If they were to trade the first pick in the 3rd round of the draft, in theory, assuming that accounting for inflation, that the market is still set at about what it was for the Brock trade, that would save him about $16 million. So if they wind up with like the first pick in the draft, they'd have the first pick in the third round. They could get rid of that and save about $16 million bucks. In theory, if all the numbers have lined up and just kind of inflated equally with
So how much would it cost the Broncos?
It would take $16 million off of the $85 million.
Off the 85, and then how much would the new team be taking?
That's $16 million.
16 plus?
16, no, the exact same. 16.25, because it all needs to add up. Because they would cut him. They wouldn't
The
keep him
other
on the
team
roster.
would cut him.
Yeah,
I
it'd
see,
be
I see.
same as, I guess the Browns might have had him sit a year. But in this world, you'd cut him because the $37 million guaranteed.
And I think what it boils down to is something like this. There's going to be
Yeah.
some accounting expert getting in there to make some deal, or maybe they can agree on a restructure. You raising your hand? You want to do the accounting?
Just saying, if they need
Yeah,
like a specialist
there
here,
we go.
I have looked over this so many times. I know I won't ask for much. You know,
I can tell
100K.
you, I can tell you're not in life to make money, because you would have gone that route instead of this route if you wanted the money.
If I want to make money, I'd still be betting a bunch. Instead of taking my couple weeks off.
Could they restructure in any way where it's like, because I mean the contract hasn't even kicked in. That's what's really tough. There's like very
No.
little incentive for Russ to want to
Exactly.
restructure and give back money or change the money that he gets.
Like, I guess. So if the Broncos were to keep him, like we said, it's another $18.5 million a year for 2 years, and then what would happen after that is the contract isn't over, but there'd be no guaranteed money left. So the Broncos could keep him for another year and pay him 40 for that year, then 45 for the next, then 50 for the next. What Russ could do is say, I'll do 3 years at like that $18.5 million, but they need to be guaranteed. You know, and in that case, he gets to say, yeah, I've got more time with the Broncos in exchange for taking less money per year, but that will result in getting more money in the long run. I don't think the Broncos are incentivized to extend the deal,
And
though.
we can't stretch it out like they do in basketball, like Kevin Garnett's still getting $5
Yeah.
million.
Or like
until
Bobby Bonilla.
2024.
Yeah. Well, the
No.
Broncos got in trouble for some of that stuff in the Super Bowl seasons because
the
basically,
first Super Bowl seasons.
yeah,
97, 98.
exactly. That was kind of the beginning of the salary cap, so a lot of the rules hadn't been hammered out, and so I think like John Elway, I think it's assumed it's John Elway's contract, but names were never released. Essentially, they said like, we'll give you this much million in a signing bonus. We'll pay it in like 6 years, because at that time they're in the process of building a new stadium. So the Broncos they didn't have much cash, so they're just like, we can't afford to pay everybody right now.
Yeah.
So we'll just, what do you think of just taking the $2 million later? And right now, a signing bonus is prorated from like the time it's signed through the contract, but that rule hadn't been set yet. And so they actually, if you accounted for that money during that season, they would have been over the salary cap and in violation. So like a couple teams like say like, that's not, it's like, well, there wasn't really a rule. It's a difference of like $1 million. And on top of it, it wasn't for salary cap manipulation reasons. It was because the Broncos were just short on cash at the time.
Yeah, but that is salary cap manipulation, because like if you were to sign Todd Davis to let's go hypothetical 3-year $15 million deal, and you were to say we're going to guarantee $10 million of this, you have to take that $10 million and put it in escrow, even if he's not getting
True.
it all right now. You have to put it in escrow to
But
show
that's
that
new,
you have
too.
the money.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying is like
Yeah.
nowadays
Yeah.
that you would have to do that. So
Well,
nowadays it would be salary cap manipulation.
And you also couldn't like just pay him money later on that contract after the contract's already expired. Like that's not allowed either. But at the time they're saying like, well, we're just giving him the same money. Like we're taking the cap hit. We just take it like 4 years from now when we have the cash to pay him.
An IOU. Would you take that, Todd?
I think I would.
You would take an
Yeah.
IOU?
Yeah,
Wow.
from NFL team. I'm not taking an IOU from like somebody on the street.
Yeah.
But I know, listen,
That's
true. They
They're
have
getting
the
that
money,
money.
and if they don't, then we'll take them to court. But,
Especially
yeah.
if you're John Elway.
Right.
Like if you're John Elway and you get
and
like,
you have a great relationship with Pat
yeah,
Bowlen.
Pat
and
Bolen's
you
not
trust
like
the hell
screwing you
him.
out of that
Yeah.
money
Uh-huh.
after those Super Bowls.
No, Pat wanted to give him a chunk of the team. That showed just how much he liked him. Oh, really quick, since we brought up his name already, Caleb Williams. I think this might be getting out of control now. Did you see the report last night that his reps are asking the team that drafts him to give him a part of ownership?
Wow.
Which isn't
Yes.
even like allowed.
It's not allowed. No,
Like you can't
the
do
NFL
that.
won't allow that.
No.
Because they didn't allow John Elway to do that with Pat Bowlen.
Exactly.
And
that was around
apparently-
that same time. Yeah.
And apparently Aaron Rodgers tried to do that with the Jets, which I didn't know about, but
Yep.
apparently the NFL stepped in and said no. But Caleb Williams, every NFL player, I have to imagine, has an ego to some extent, just like most people do. His is like maybe the biggest I've ever seen out of
Yeah.
a guy that's never played a snap in the NFL yet.
You do
Telling you,
wonder
man.
though, like, because there's no
We'll
way
see
he
how it
gets it,
goes.
but there is a chance that he says like, "Well, I'm not going to the NFL this year if I'm not getting it," and doesn't come out in this draft. Like, it's one more reason he could not go to the draft this year and could stay in college, and those are kind of stacking up at the moment.
Yeah, and I'm getting a little bit antsy about if he's
our
actually
guy.
that guy. Yeah, if he's in it for the right reasons, because it all seems to be like everything not about football that he wants his hand in the pot. And it's just a little, it's first time it's really creeping up on my radar. Like, maybe you want to really look into Michael Penix or
That's the man, I'm
Drake
telling
May.
you.
Okay.
Yeah, you're right. I'm getting a little nervous.
I've got two things really quick.
Yeah.
One is Russ had a no trade clause in his last contract that he waived to go to the Broncos. That's a contract that expires in March, and nobody's reported that there's a no trade clause in the new contract. There's a chance though, like there's a chance that that news just hasn't broken. So, and the fact that he had one in the last one means that maybe.
There's gotta be, right?
I mean, most players don't have a no trade clause. Even most like I think Russ might have been the first. If not, he was pretty close. But the
Yeah,
fact
but they did it last time. That's probably one in there now.
Exactly, if you're
Especially since he
extending it.
waived it to go to the Broncos.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough.
It
But
like worked out for him.
that is like one more piece. The other one is Brock Osweiler was the referee for my first ever touchdown pass up in Montana.
Really?
Yeah. I was in 5th grade. I was like throwing the ball to the tight end. It actually like skipped off the ground, but Brock was standing in the back of the end zone with his big old aviators on, called it a touchdown.
Dang.
Was he in college?
No, he's in high school.
He was in high school.
Yeah.
Wow. Did you know he was a legend then?
I mean, we knew he was really good at football. Like those guys don't come through Montana very often, especially like the northwest corner.
So is this full circle about you started the podcast saying we were going to talk about your football career?
Well,
There
and then
we go.
and I was gonna move on, but I was like, oh, I forgot. I should.
Yeah.
I promised I'd say it.
yeah, no, we love it. That's wild.
Yeah.
So you're happy that he's a bad official?
Oh yeah, it's
It got
great.
you your first touchdown.
It did. Yep.
Wow. That's awesome. Okay, let's talk to the people, get to some comments really quick. Do we have any super chats here? We do. Coming in from Obstructor Gadget says, make Russ our rebuild quarterback. Tank for Marvin Harrison Jr. Trade back in 2025. Acquire draft capital for 2026. Archie Manning, better than Russ. How
Wow.
do we like Marvin Harrison Jr.? This is quite the rebuild plan.
Well, we love Marvin Harrison Jr. That guy's a freak. Also, though, like if your plan is take a rookie in 2026, your plan is also like start winning games in 2028. And
Yeah.
it's 2023 right now, so that's kind of tough for me to commit to.
This is so tough for me to
Yeah.
commit to. If you're in the position to take Marvin Harrison Jr., it means you're in a position probably to get one of those top 3 quarterbacks.
Yep.
And it would just be so hard to pass up on that. But how do you guys like Marvin Harrison Jr.?
Oh, he's sick. He's
Phenomenal.
fast. He's big. He makes plays on the ball. Like he has literally everything you could ask for in a receiver, and that's why he's probably the best player in this draft. Like if quarterbacks weren't more valuable, would he be the number 1 overall pick?
I don't know.
It'd be close.
Just since people are comparing Caleb to Patrick Mahomes,
Yeah.
it's kind of hard to say that he's better than that. But
I'll compare Marvin Harrison to Calvin Johnson, though.
well, and that's the closest comp. People are saying he's the
Yeah.
best wide receiver prospect to come out of the draft since Calvin Johnson.
That's a big
It
step
is.
right there.
It
And
is.
Calvin
a
went
big
2
deal.
overall.
Yeah.
And was
Calvin
worth
was
it
the
too.
man. Yeah,
at
he
the
was the
end.
man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you ever
Yeah.
go up against him?
No, I don't think I ever played against Calvin.
I mean, just Megatron. There's a reason he had that nickname.
Yeah.
He was so
He was
cool.
that dude. And what is there? Have any other wide receivers been drafted in the top 5 outside of Julio Jones in like the past 20 years?
No.
Because wasn't Sammy Watkins just after the top 5? I think.
Well, and it used to be receivers just weren't worth it. Like they were seeing like running backs a while back.
Yeah.
Now everybody just throws the ball every play, so that's
But
not
still,
true.
you never see receivers go top 5.
No, but even top 5 is still rare.
Yeah.
I know because like Kyle Pitts is a tight end.
Yeah.
He was the number 5 pick. The last top
Number
5.
4.
Oh, yeah. That must have been the last number 4 pick or top 4 pick that was a tight end was Riley Odoms to the Broncos in the 70s.
And that was it. Those are the only two.
Kind of crazy.
Dang.
Yeah.
It was Riley Odoms.
It is wild.
Also, the other thing about 2026, like if you get the #1 pick, draft Caleb Williams. If it doesn't work out, guess what? It's been 2 years. You gave him his 2 years. You're going to be right there at the top. If it doesn't work out, then go pull the trigger. Like you get to try another quarterback before 2026.
That's true.
That's your
Larry-
second time through.
Larry Fitzgerald was 3 overall.
Okay.
Okay.
Andre Johnson was number 3 overall.
Okay.
Julio
Oh.
Jones number 6.
Okay.
Reggie Wayne
6.
30, and
Yeah.
then it gets Mike Evans number 7. But it's not a lot of top 5.
That's a
Those
ways
are
back there.
all worth it. They were all
Definitely.
Exactly.
Jamar
So-
Chase number 5 overall.
Yep.
Oh,
and all
yeah.
worth it.
Yeah.
All worth it. So maybe
AJ
it's
Green number 4.
Who? AJ Green?
He
What
was
dog?
cool too.
Yep.
Yeah.
dog.
He
Yep.
was sick.
So yeah, I mean, you're likely getting a really, really great player with that pick, but
Yeah.
I don't know if wide receiver would be the spot for this team. All right, we got one comment on the website that we want to hit. Onion Tears Bronco. It's changed from Onion Booty Bronco to Onion Tears
Oh,
Bronco.
that's a
That shows
shame.
you the way the season's going.
What's
Said-
your favorite kind of tears, Todd?
Crocodile.
So should we have hired Jer Bear Rosberg? Maybe not the best coach, but the right guy for this team. He looks like a very wise tree, like Grandmother Willow from Pocahontas, but a grandfather Willow. His
He
mere
looks like a
presence brings warmth and knowledge. I long for the Jer Bear era. The most dignity I have felt as a Broncos fan in this laughable Let's Ride saga. Let's say humans are 70% water. I am 90% tears. With sorrow,
Wow.
Onion Tears Bronco.
Wow.
Yeah, that's sad.
Wow,
That was
great
was
comment.
nice at the end. Like there had been so much pain up until that point. Then you get to see Jerry Rosberg, like 70-year-old man, just
Making
get
things
his
happen.
get his chance to go out there and coach an NFL football team and win a game. Like that's gonna be his favorite story for the rest of his life.
Oh, of course.
Of course. And then like to get that on your way out of the NFL is pretty cool.
These young whippersnappers didn't know what they were doing. They had to step in.
Exactly.
Man, I can guarantee if Jerry was the coach this year, there would be far fewer storylines for us to cover. Everything would be under the radar with this team.
That
Maybe
is
not
true.
in a bad way, as we've seen those storylines come back to bite the Broncos.
Yep.
But hey, thanks to Sean, it's made our job a lot more entertaining, that's for sure. And we're going to continue to break down this team. We're going to break down this upcoming game tomorrow at 11 a.m. So make sure to stay tuned. Hit us with a thumbs up on your way out. Hit us with a 5-star review on Spotify, Apple, wherever you listen to podcasts. And just know that we really appreciate everyone for rocking and rolling with us, despite the Broncos being 1-5. Have a wonderful hump day. We'll see you tomorrow on the DNVR Broncos podcast.
We all silly like the mayor.